Welcome to Melt University's 2020 summer program. This year, our virtual intern program will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Here's your host, President and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Summer 2020 virtual Melt University. We are rolling on. We've got tremendous podcast, tremendous response, great lunch and learns. I'm really enjoying all the positive feedback. So keep the cards and letters coming. But we have a special treat today for many reasons. First and foremost, Rece Davis, the lead host for one of my favorite things, professionally, personally in the world, ESPN College GameDay, built by the Home Depot. We've seen him many times. But not only that, just one of the great gentlemen, one of the great professionals that I've ever worked with in my professional life, and really sort of walks the walk, espouses the values. Just what an amazing career that he has built and continues to build. I say there's two great things coming out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. One is the great music and fame recording, and the other one is Rece Davis as well, and maybe not necessarily in that order. Graduated from the University of Alabama. We found out just a minute ago that he's got a lot of lineage to one of our main producers from Melt University, Zach Cates. His grandfather was a professor and actually taught Rece at the University of Alabama. But just an amazing career path. And again, he is the face of college football and ESPN college football, and he's pretty much done it all. Saturday night games, College GameDay, which is where we first started meeting and working together through Coca-Cola, but also was University of Alabama School of Communication Broadcast, outstanding alumnus in 2001, and also a Hall of Famer, was inducted in the University of Alabama College Communication Information Services Hall of Fame in 2019, but also forged an amazing path. Worked his way through Flint, Michigan as a sports anchor and reporter, paid his dues there. I didn't realize he was in or maybe I did, Columbus, Georgia, one of my favorite places where Aflac is, from 88 to 93, and also worked his way a lot through University of Alabama as a sports reporter. As we talked about, a lot of our past, the campus is the ultimate professional laboratory. But we are honored and proud to have you on today, Rece Davis. Welcome to Melt University.
Well, Vince, I'm glad to be with you. I appreciate those kind words at the beginning, and I definitely rank behind the music and multiple other things, I'm sure, coming out of Muscle Shoals, but definitely behind the music. But I'm happy to be with you, and I think this is a cool thing that you're doing for students.
Well, thank you so much. And so, Rece, one purpose of this podcast is to really talk to our kids about early on identifying your passion, particularly while you're in a college campus, in a college environment. You have an opportunity to really seek your independence for the first time and really sort of find out about yourself. So talk about in the early days as a student, or maybe even pre-student, which is was my case. I love sports and I love to write about it growing up in Lower Alabama, and then went to Auburn and worked my way through sports information. But so talk about how passion has driven your career path and choices.
Vince, I think the thing for me, and I really consider myself fortunate and blessed, and I don't mean in a, serendipitous or, pure luck kind of way, but there just haven't been a lot of things that I would want to do that wouldn't feel like work. There are certainly other things that I'm interested in outside of sports, several other things, but the thing that seemed to me at a very early age that would be most rewarding and most enjoyable for me in terms of finding a way to make a living was to work in sports. Now, like just about any other kid who grew up loving sports, particularly in the 70s when I was a kid and 80s when I was a teenager, you are pretty sure that your sports broadcasting career is going to come at the end of a long and illustrious playing career. And that that did not happen for me. People ask often, because of what I cover, if I played sports in college. and I tell them that my talent ran out after high school, although all
Right.
of my high school teammates would tell you that my talent ran out a long time before high school.
Yeah,
So
I understand that really well.
yeah. So, I always wanted to do it in addition to being the kid that was always playing, backyard, making up games in the backyard and playing, with your friends in the neighborhood and playing on
Hmm.
teams and all of that. I was also the guy who was back in the days before, there were games on television from noon until 2 in the morning. You settled for that one or two games in the afternoon, and then you would pull out the radio and try to pick up any distant strain that you could of any game being played anywhere. And I was
Right.
the kid that became fascinated by that and hearing Larry Munson call Georgia games, or John Ward call Tennessee games at night, or John Ferguson from LSU, or picking up Ole Miss games, or a Missouri
Mhm.
game, even KMOX, because in Northwest Alabama you could get a clear channel signal, and I'm speaking Mandarin Chinese to or some
Right.
other foreign language to today's kids. But you would listen to AM radio and listen to games, and I became fascinated not only with the games themselves and with the sports, but also with the broadcasting of them. So that's how it sort of led me to sports. And I've always loved to read. I'm fascinated by the way that people communicate ideas and tell stories, and it's worked out for me that I've been able to pursue a career in it, and up to this point, it's gone very well.
So at University of Alabama, and obviously now more than ever, the campus, we tell our students, it's like, hey, the campus for you is the ultimate professional laboratory. You're never going to be in an environment where there are more opportunities to really build relationships, learn your craft, learn your trade. Particularly now with the technology, the SEC network being on SEC campuses and ACC and those types of things. But talk about when you got to the University of Alabama. Talk about your beginning of your path and how you took advantage of the campus to begin to build your craft and trade.
Vince, is one of the biggest mistakes I made, in that I didn't do a good enough job of that, and it was
Wow. Hmm.
it was purely out of ignorance. Just to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I had some cousins and aunts, extended family that had gone to college. My parents didn't.
Hmm.
I only have a younger sister, so I didn't have a big brother or sister to tell me this is how this was going to go. Um, my dad was a machinist, and my mom, was basically a homemaker, but she took some other jobs. They didn't have
Hmm.
expertise in the professional world to be able to guide me. So I had this misperception that what you did was you worked through high school and you got good grades and you got into college, hopefully the one you wanted to go to, which was my case. And then you went through college and then you went out and find a job. I was about halfway through my time at Alabama before I realized, wait a minute, I should be, I should be working, in the business. I was working. I was an RA in the dorms and all of that kind of stuff. So I
Hmm.
started doing some things with with the campus public radio. They had a reading thing where basically you read things over the radio to people who couldn't read for themselves anymore, a radio reading program. I
Hmm.
started doing some of that. Um, I started trying to get a little more involved in things with the School of Communication. And then finally, in my junior year, I started an internship at Channel 33 in Tuscaloosa, which was a
Hmm.
CBS affiliate. And through some guidance of people at Alabama that helped me do that. So I said that to say, students who, and I think fewer students are probably in the situation that I was, and not really being aware that
Right.
all of that's available to them, or that they should be doing that. I think more of them are aware of that. But if you are putting it off as a student, or you think, that there is time for that, or, oh, I can't do that until I'm a junior, or whatever it might be, I would say don't do that. I
Hmm.
was fortunate in that I don't think it ultimately hindered me, but it probably slowed and delayed the start of my career. So, I would just encourage people to take advantage of what their school has to offer and go and seek it out. There are so many people on campuses now, particularly at Alabama, which is more than double the undergraduate size from when I was there, that while your professors and your counselors and the people working professionally in the various colleges of communication in different places, they want to help you, but they don't have time to come and find you in your dorm room. So, go and seek it out, and don't be embarrassed or ashamed about that. And don't feel like you have to have answers. You're going to look for the answers and guidance and ideas for how you might get started. And that's something that I should have done a much better job of, that I really encourage people that aspire to be in this business to start early and start doing that.
Well, and I think you just hit on something really important. And ironically, your experience and my experience were very similar. I just had the great fate. My first journalism class was guest lectured by David Housel, who at the time was the sports information director at Auburn. And after class, I just, went up and said, "Hey, man, I really want to be over there. The locker room, the practice, the press box," and took the shot and really was fortuitous. But for a lot of our students, and they're the most sophisticated consumers and marketers, they, to your point, they may not be aware of this environment. And we've had some great athletic directors on. We've had Alan Green of Auburn, Greg McGarity of Georgia, we had Ross Bjork of Texas A&M. And the thing that we are learning, and I'm sure you see this too because you visit campuses all over the country, is that there are so many other new opportunities within the athletic department. We've learned about mental health. We've learned about compliance. We obviously are learning about fan experience and fan safety if and when we go back to the campus and we go back to college sports. And we also are learning that the emerging area of students and the ability to use their names, image, and likeness. But from your perch and your purvey, and obviously ESPN, the worldwide leader in advancing in technology, you visit all these amazing campuses. From where you sit, where do you see other opportunities for our students who do want to get into collegiate sports marketing and collegiate sports business? Because, when we get through, post-COVID, there are going to be a lot of other new opportunities at these campuses. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and there are going to be challenges that need some creative thinkers to help solve some of the problems. But the biggest opportunity that I see, or one of the biggest, I should say, depending on someone's vision and expertise, the videos that the individual teams and the various social media accounts, the Instagram stories, or even just the slickly produced hype videos and different things where individual teams on campus are really putting out their message. Now, it's all based around recruiting. We understand why they're doing it. And it's also done for, I think, the enjoyment to some degree of the current players. But I think there are a ton of opportunities there. In fact, on game day, we have people looking for those all the time to find a way to weave those in, without, we don't want it to come off like, hey, Minnesota, for instance, Minnesota football does an unbelievable job. You don't want to make it look like you're rooting for them when you're there covering them in Wisconsin, but they put out really cool behind the scenes content that's slickly edited and produced and gives people access to things that they ordinarily wouldn't get. And candidly, that even as much as we feel like we've built trust, there's something different about someone within the organization being able to help shape a message. Because, not to go too philosophical here, but if you're working for a team and you're working at that school, your only loyalty is, how does this message affect this team, this program, and what we want to say? Mm-hmm. If you're working at ESPN, your objective is to present that message through the prism of fairness. Is this accurate? Right. Is it right? Is it, and look, those are both worthy goals. And it's just sort of the way things are in our media culture right now. So there are opportunities, certainly on both sides, the traditional route, which I am in and which you're in. And there are also, maybe you're in a little bit of a hybrid position, but there are also opportunities, not only working for a university or for a professional team, but within that university, there are opportunities for teams that might be underrepresented, and you can really make your mark that way. There are a lot of ways to get out there and do some really cool new things, and things that are even getting our attention that we keep an eye out for every week on College GameDay.
Well, you make a great point, because we all tend to focus on football so much, but say Auburn, for instance, there are, I think, 23 sports. And so, they're literally of hundreds of games and events going on the Auburn University campus, that the mechanics of putting an event on, from, ticketing to concessions to, if the SEC network is, streaming a softball game or a volleyball game, in the old days, I mean, I was running cable, stringing cable, driving, Feinbaum or Vital to the airport, or, to their hotel, and those types of things. And there there's so many opportunities. But, I compare, game day coming to a campus as a big spaceship or a big circus coming to town. And my favorite thing is to kind of, get there on Wednesday or Thursday when everybody's getting there, and the guys, and it's a beautiful fall, and it's a setting, and the students and the signs and all that. But if College Game Day comes to town, is there a way, from your perspective, or what is the best way for a student to be able to volunteer to work on game day? Because you don't just flip the switch and Saturday morning it's there. I mean, this is a giant process, and many times we don't even find out we're going to a campus until Sunday or Monday, because the storyline of the season and the drama is ever evolving. But what tips would you give to a student? Would they work through the university if they find out game day is coming?
Yeah, I think that would be the most expedient way, is to try to work through the university, because our production managers and production coordinators are usually looking for a few people. I don't know the number, Vince, to be honest with you. It's not a huge number, because for the most part, as our, at least, we don't, no one knows how it's going to work in this COVID era, but pre-COVID, our group pretty much traveled with us, from cameramen, audio people, stage managers, stage builders, truck drivers. It's our team of probably right around 100 people.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And they're pretty much with us from start to finish. There are opportunities, though, for students to get involved, and we utilize them. So I would think the best way to go about it would be to go through the school. They can probably try a couple of different ways. They can probably try the sports information, and they can probably also try the school of communication, because if I'm not mistaken, I think that there is usually some degree of communication between our production managers and production coordinators with the school of communication about people that we might need for various roles.
Right. And the same applies to SEC Nation as well, because one thing, Rece, one objective of our program is that we want to help our kids build relationships with people like you and David Pollock. We want them to pad their resumes, not only with that experience, but when a potential employer such as ESPN, which is a giant organization, and there's no telling literally the tens of thousands of resumes that ESPN gets a year, because, obviously everybody wants to work for the worldwide leader. But so we're trying to help our students, and also learn, like, your resume or your first outreach is every interaction is an audition. And so we want to show that initiative and that self-starting, such as you had and such as I had. But if a student reaches out to Rece Davis, for instance, what gets your attention from, obviously you're on television all the time, and well known, and the voice of ESPN College Game Day. So what would get your attention from a prospective student seeking career advice or counseling, or even an introduction at ESPN, if they reach out to you?
I think, Vince, the first thing is, as old fashioned as this is going to sound, is being polite and
Mhm.
respectful. That certainly gets the attention, and having a clear idea of what you'd like to do. Now, it doesn't have to be specific, and I do get people reaching out and sometimes sending an email and saying, "Hey, I'd like to have your job," and I
Right.
usually respond, "Look, I need it for a few more years, but good luck," but
Right.
but no, even something like that is fine, and it doesn't have to be ridiculously over the top,
Hmm.
in your face. I'm, going to be greater than Bob Costas or, anything like that. But
Hmm.
just a clear idea of who you are, what you'd like to do. And, if it's something like you're referencing, I go to school at Auburn. I know you guys might be in town, for the Georgia game or whatever it might be, or I hear you are going to be in town, the Georgia game. Can I stop by? When would be a good time? That type of thing. If you want to talk a little bit,
Hmm.
um, you know, I can. A lot of times, maybe I don't know exactly what to do, but I can point you to a person. If you're saying, "Hey, look, I just like to be around the show, for the weekend and do a job." There's only so much room for
Right.
people to come and observe. Um, we certainly have that, but if I let five people follow me around, and Desmond let five people follow him around, and Kirk let five, before long, you're,
Yeah.
we need some time to prep the show sort of within our bubble. But it's not unusual at all for a person or two per weekend to be following the
Hmm.
show around, and it is pretty common for. And I think you can learn almost as much if you take on a role helping the runners. You're sort of around the show, or as you mentioned, taking people from one place to another, or picking up supplies, or you
Yeah.
know, uh, helping, just helping with whatever's needed. Those types of things, I think a lot of times you can learn almost as much, if not as much or more, about how the show operates and how the production goes than you could if you got, one of us to say, "Yeah, I can do that. You can follow me around for Friday,"
Hmm.
and because more times than not, just being really candid here, just sort of the way I work, I
Hmm.
don't mind if I have an occasional student, um, follow me around for the entire weekend, but I'd be much more likely to say, "Hey, let's set aside some time on Thursday afternoon," usually, because
Right.
I'm usually pretty locked in on Friday. Set aside some time Thursday afternoon. Happy to talk to you and show you around, all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm not saying I have had people follow me around for the entire weekend, but I don't. I mean, hopefully they enjoy it and everybody's nice to them. I'm not so sure that you don't get more out of it if you're assigned, if you're part of the team and you kind of see how everything works full speed instead of.
Right.
I think more times than not, when you have someone following you um, without any defined role,
Right.
sometimes I think it gets a little awkward for them. They're not really sure when to ask a question. They're not, and all of that kind of thing. So I think sometimes it might be better, maybe you could find a way to talk to one of us if you wanted to on a Thursday afternoon, or
Right.
Friday morning, and then maybe work the show the rest of the weekend in one of those roles that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, because what we forget is that you are running a live 3 hour television show on a Saturday morning, and live television is I've been in you guys' trucks and your shoes many times, but and I don't even know this. Kind of stepping back a little bit, because I don't think I've ever asked you this, but how did you first get to ESPN? I mean, you were building this great career, but I don't think I even know the story of how it happened, because I mean, you know Columbus, Georgia, Flint, Michigan, and the face of college football. How did that happen?
Well, I back up a little bit, and hopefully the story won't be too boring. I'm glad my wife's not close by. She'd roll her eyes because she's heard this story so many times.
All right.
But about 6 weeks before we were to be married, and she's a Columbus, Georgia girl. She was working at the same station where I was. That's where we met. It was one of the not greatest jobs I've ever had, just due to
Right.
I'll say, let's say, due to facilities and lack of commitment. I think it's better now,
Right.
but at the time it was
Yeah.
difficult.
Right.
She, on the other hand, you'll appreciate this, man. She was killing it. She was an ad rep there, and she was doing so well there. She was making more money than the general manager selling advertising. I mean, she was crushing it there. So about 6 weeks before our wedding, I said to her, "Hey, I'm taking this job in Flint, Michigan." So I'm asking her to leave this great job, leave her hometown, and luckily for me, she did. And so we go there, and I love the station at Flint. The people were so awesome to me, and I was looking around to take that next step, and I had some opportunities. People calling from Milwaukee and Columbus, Ohio, and Oklahoma City, and various other places. And she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" She said, we don't want to live in Oklahoma City or Columbus, Ohio for, what? And I said, well,
Right.
I want to go to ESPN. And she said, well, let's try that. And about that same time, in an Alabama alumni magazine, I ran across the name Andrea Kirby. Andrea was a former broadcaster, and she was is a broadcasting coach, and she was an alumnus of the university. She'd been on air at ABC, and she was a talent coach at ESPN. So not for ESPN, but they had contracted her. So I sent my tape to Andrea, and
you didn't know her.
I did not. No, I did not know.
But you had that. But you leveraged an emotional connection, which is what we tell these kids.
Correct.
You're a graduate of University of Alabama, and she is a graduate of University of Alabama. So what happened?
So I sent her the tape, and she called me, and she said, "Why haven't you sent this tape to ESPN?" Now, you have to remember when this was. This was like 1994. And I said, "Well, Andrea, look, ESPN's a big deal. It's my ultimate goal. I figure, that I have to be in, Boston or Atlanta or Chicago or LA or someplace, before they'll pay attention to me." And she said, "You've got this screwed up beyond belief." And I said, "What?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "If you go to Boston or Atlanta or Los Angeles, you'll never go to ESPN." And I said, "Why not?" She said, "You won't take the pay cut." Now, fortunately, things have changed. And you remember in the early 90s, local television was still where
it was the
people made
king.
a lot of money, And she said, "Send it now." So I sent it, and they hired me to do the Sports Smash. And in fact, I talked to ESPN. This was pre-cell phone days. I was interviewing for a job in Columbus, Ohio, and I called the guy Al Jaffe at ESPN from a payphone in a Wendy's parking lot across the street from the ABC affiliate in Columbus, Ohio. And I told him, I said, "Look, Mr. Jaffe," I said, "Look, I'm in Flint, Michigan. I'm, in my 20s. I'm not, I know I don't have any leverage here." I said, "But I just got to tell you," I told him where I was. I said, "I'm about to walk in for this interview, and I'm pretty sure they're going to offer me this job at some point." And he said, "If you want this job here, don't take that one yet." And we arranged, and I flew out the next week, and I was able to, massage the other. And I went to ESPN for the interview the next week, and they offered me the job.
Wow. So this is one thing and you just, God, I'm so glad I asked you that question, but we tell our students is that the lowest hanging fruit, if you are, let's say, a student at University of Alabama, is to leverage those alumni connections, do your research on those alumni, do your research through the magazines, do your research through the office, also the sponsors of, say, Alabama football, because there's an emotional connection and loyalty there. Because if they reach out to you and say, fellow graduate of the University of Alabama, that's going to catch your eye because they've done their homework on you, and also you guys share that emotional connection, and you just personified what we talk about. You saw Andrea's name in the magazine, you didn't know her, fellow Alabama alumni, you reach out, and then bingo, that sets you on the path to this amazing job, amazing career. And had you not been doing your research, and had you not been taken that shot, goodness knows where your path would have led you out of Columbus, Ohio, because you're right. Back in the day, I mean, local TV was the king. And that's a great story, because it really just encapsulates everything that we tell them. So as we wrap, a couple of fun things, because it never, for me as a professional, it never gets old for me to be at a college game day broadcast. It's the energy in the air. It's the fall. It's the autumn. But you are surrounded by a really fun cast of characters as well. I'd say that was a sort of an understatement. With Coach Corso and Desmond and Pollock and Herbie and Maria and all that. If you got a fun story, behind the scenes story to share, my favorite one was when Joe Namath walked up on the stage in that big old giant fur coat. We were down in Tuscaloosa, but because I was such a fan of Joe Namath growing up. But do you have a fun personal story like that resonates with you? Even though I went to Auburn, Joe Willie was the man. And then for him to sashay up in that fur coat, but it never gets old, even when Coach Corso puts the mascot hat on. But you got a good favorite for us?
I mean, there are a lot. I mean, I think anytime we have a guest picker that maybe Coach Corso is not terribly familiar with going into it, and teaching him on Friday, okay, this guy does this or that, and whether it's a singer or an actor, I mean, he knew Matthew McConaughey, which is probably as great a guest picking moment as we've had last year at Texas. But I'll tell you one, Vince, that I think epitomizes and makes me humble and grateful for the reaction that people have to the show. And this was not in a typical game day setting. It was a national championship game of the first college football playoff between Ohio State and Oregon. We are in Jerry World, they're just outside of Dallas. Right. And it was, Fowler was calling the game. And though we had not yet agreed to terms on with ESPN about contract extension, taking over game day and all that stuff, I was hosting all of the pregame coverage and game day and all of the other shows leading up to the title game. So, so I was on set for the headgear pick and everything. So we're at the end of this long day. I think we'd done I think that first year, I want to say that Lee Fitting, our producer, and he got in the chair and I got in the anchor chair, and we were stingy and didn't share it with anybody. And I want to say we did 6 consecutive hours of television. So here we are. Well, here we are coming to the end of the show, leading up, about to throw it up to the booth. And right before we go to the last commercial break, I'm saying, whatever I'm saying, kickoff X number of minutes away, make our picks. LC with a mascot head, who's it going to be for the first college football playoff? And I look off just behind the set and I see this man, and you probably know it, man by the name of Ed Bass.
Oh yeah. And
Mr. Bass is wildly successful philanthropist. He is Yale educated. He's been a smashing success in business. If you know what the biosphere is, he built it. He renovated all of downtown Fort Worth. He's just been extraordinarily generous to the people of Fort Worth, and he's been very gracious and kind to us when we've gone to Sundance Square to do the show. He would probably not like me saying this, although it's been in Forbes. He's a billionaire. He's been on Forbes' list of the wealthiest people. And, there can be good people and bad people who have money. And I get all that. I'm not saying that defines him anything other than I'm building this up because he has had unbelievable life experiences, right? He's traveled all over the globe. He's done all kinds of philanthropic things. He's been wildly successful in business. And as we get ready for the start of the first college football playoff championship game, there's Mr. Bass, proud Texan that he is, cowboy hat, jeans, big belt buckle, a smile ear to ear, and a giant trash bag that he's holding over his shoulder. And I sort of, as I'm throwing the break, I'm like, what in the world? What's Ed Bass doing over there? And he comes up during the break and he comes to the set and he crawls down underneath the set beside LC, and inside the trash bag is the mascot head.
Wow.
And he is thrilled because he is going. Nobody's going to know this. He's not doing it for recognition. He's lying on his back amidst the wires, digging the Brutus head out. And when LC goes, I'm going with my first love, the Buckeyes. Hey, and Mr. Bass hands him the mascot head, and LC puts on the Buckeye Brutus head, and he does the royal wave and everything, and we throw it up to the game starts. And when that's over, Ed Bass stands up and goes, that might be the coolest thing I've ever done. And I'm like, you fly your own G4 around. What are you talking about?
Oh,
You're
my goodness.
on wires, handing Lee Corso a mascot head. And to me, that makes you really grateful about what that show and what that moment means, and to be a part of it's really cool. But that's one of my favorite stories. The billionaire who did something he thought was the coolest thing ever, and nobody knew he was doing it. It was really cool.
You just personified why we all love college football. I mean, it's just that story just gave me chills just picturing, because I mean, there ain't a lot of room under your set, by the way. And there's a lot of wires. And this billionaire is crawling around with a trash bag with Brutus, the fate of the free world, in his hands, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you made me laugh about Coach Corso, because I think we were somewhere, and I think it was a game day where we had was the singer Pink on there. It was one of these famous singers, and she did not. It may have been the first time we were on the Grove, by the way.
Oh, it was Katy. There was
Katy Perry. Katy Perry.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a generational disconnect. Sometimes, when you see the picker up there, and you see Coach Corso, I think I'm trying to explain to my 86-year-old father, who Katy Perry may be. And he may not care, but as we wrap, any go-to books, podcasts, resources, not necessarily sports oriented, that you've always used as an inspirational resource? Because we've had a lot of great book titles shared and podcasts. Anything that you have that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I think something recently, and I always try to do my scripture reading. I've told my family that the first thing I do every day, so that I don't get inundated with bad news right now, at least I can maintain some perspective, is that I try to, I try to do my scripture reading first thing. So that's the first thing that goes into my mind.
That's the same thing I do, by the way.
Yeah. And I think another one that I've read recently, just in terms of mindset and different things, Trevor Moawad, who you might know, who works with Russell Wilson, works with Georgia and Texas A&M football right now, and for a long time worked with Nick at Alabama. Has a book about the power of neutral thinking. His dad was Bob Moawad, was the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and Trevor has become a great friend. And I think it's a really good way, a good outlook in terms of dealing with your mindset and circumstances and how you react to them and so forth. So that's one that recently
Right.
I know that I've read. But I think just anything that is that's good strong writing, because the more you read, the more it's going to inspire your mind to communicate and use your words better. So I've my buddy Gene Wojciechowski that's on the show, I've read, I actually reread his book on the 92 Duke Kentucky game during quarantine. And I read his book on Bob Stoops. And, so just, I think anything that you can read like that's well written and uses the language well can be beneficial when you're trying to look for ways to improve your life as you pursue your career in our business.
Yeah, and I love Wojo's books. I mean, he puts you right there. I'm a big fan of Trevor's, big fan of his father's, and I've not read The Power of Neutral Thinking, but I think that's a great resource. And yeah, just anything that you can, continue to, interestingly, Rece, a lot of our guests read a lot of John Wooden still.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've talked to our students about, obviously they may or may not know who the Wizard of Westwood is, but John Wooden was just such a amazing, and he's an amazing resource as well. But we won't keep you, but this has been first of all so fun, so gracious, really, to get behind the scenes of the flagship show, ESPN College GameDay. Like I said, it's I'm hoping and praying, speaking of scripture, that we are all able to gather back together this fall. But as time passes and kids go back to school and we get beyond the virus, the great thing about college football and college sports is that passion and that emotion. And I think that you sort of personify that. I mean, one of my great moments too is when College GameDay basketball visited Auburn, which is now a basketball school. My great buddy Bruce Pearl down there, but you've been so gracious with your time, and I think to our students and our listeners, you can see that why he's the consummate professional, why he leads a values-based career and life, and we talk about a lot about that, staying true to your values, but. Hall of Famer, I love to say that, Hall of Famer Rece Davis, Alabama fellow, Alabama native, but he was up in the north part of Alabama, and I'm part of lower Alabama, and we're Auburn, Alabama guys. But it was such a delight for you to join us today, and we hope that we will see you soon down the road. Rece Davis, thank you for joining Melt University today.
Thanks for having me, Vince.
We really appreciate it, and the Melt Summer Virtual 2020 University, we roll on.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.